addresses. Yeah. Okay, folks, welcome to the Committee of the Whole. Date is Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. Sorry, you're back and open. Yeah. We're back. Okay. All right, just some formalities. We have just completed our closed portion of the meeting. The time is 7:03. We're back in open. There is nothing to report out at this time. The meeting was adjourned and it will be picked up again at a later date when Councillor Broughton is in town. With that, we'll move motion to.
There's one item, which is item 9.1.
Portable water.
And that's all you have.
9.1, so I must have a different rate ended there. Oh, okay. Okay, so we can pick up the committee of the whole following.
Yeah, so once you conclude this meeting, then you need to open the committee.
Yes, please, thank you.
All right, so we're back into open. We will pick up the committee of the whole following the open portion of the council meeting, regularly constituted council meeting. Item is 9.1. Actually, motion to call a meeting to order. Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, second by Councillor Abbott, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move right to item number 9.1, portable water filtration, and Councillor Abbott, you have a verbal update?
Sorry, if I could, can you adopt the agenda, please?
We can. All right.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Can I make
Did we
a,
not adopt the agenda at the beginning of the close?
Sorry if I mean, you adopted the closed agenda, you do not adopt the open agenda because we just changed it all of it.
All right, so a motion to adopt the
I
agenda.
would like to add something under new business.
Mhm.
To provide a letter or ask staff to set up a meeting with the mayors of Squamish, Whistler, ourselves, the chair of the SLRD, to get together to write a letter to what the Ministry of Highway and any other pertinent ministries to talk about the maintenance and proactive planning for the safety of the Sea to Sky corridor.
How the hell did you remember all that? That's fantastic. Okay,
Can I get a second?
we'll put that under new business. Okay,
Get there, to repeat it.
moved by Councillor Cunliffe, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin, all in favor? Opposed?
Sure.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll put that under new business and,
How'd you do that?
right now we'll go to 9.1, Councillor Abbott.
Okay, so as I pointed out in email, I didn't actually ask to do a report on this. I think this just came out of a discussion I had with the CAOs, so I haven't got a prepared report, but I can talk to what we discussed. As people may well know, there was in the news just recently, there was a CTV report as well as in the North Shore News about UBC study that looked into small communities or communities in general and how they're going to deal with the aftermaths of wildfire on their drinking water system. Of course, we'd been talking about it for 2 years through the infrastructure committee meeting and have a passed resolution at UBCM. So we've done that step a year before more than a year before this came up. But it did sort of get me to wonder what next, because I think we all know just because you passed a resolution at UBCM doesn't mean anyone ever talks about it again. I did send a note to the deputy minister who we met at the time at the UBCM, Thomas surname, he's also first name. Sorry, I've forgotten his surname. Anyway, I sent him a note and got a response. Yeah, thanks for the info. So the question is, all right, so how do we make this move along and make sure it doesn't die on the vine and give more than thanks for the info? And I think main council can discuss, I mean, obviously there's two things going on. What do we want to do on the political level? Certainly want to bring this up with our MLA the next chance we get. If we get a chance bring up the MP, because there may be a federal aspect to this, I'm now starting to realize, as well as what do we do at the staff level, contact EMCR, find out if they do have this on their agenda, or are they planning on doing this, do they have a plan, or whatever we need to do. So it's an open suggestion of what we need to do, and if we can provide some direction to go do some of those things, and CIO wants to talk.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. So further to Councillor Abbott's point, my recommendation as an option that council could consider is pass a resolution to prepare a letter reaching out to the correct ministry and or ministries with regard to further advocating for this and requesting a formal update as one of the next, a formal next step that this council could take.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, would you like to put forward that?
I'll put forward that motion.
Okay, second, Councillor McLaughlin. Okay, discussion.
And maybe I don't want to delay it until the UBCM, but maybe we should also add to that, and depending on the response we get back, ask for a ministerial meeting with the UBCM. Would that be appropriate?
Michael.
I am a keen advocate of reaching out to our elected people and Victoria whenever required. So I wouldn't wait till UBCM if you feel that.
No, I said, and depending on the outcome of what response we get back, follow up at the UBCM. We can deal with that part later.
I would request a meeting with the minister now.
Okay,
Okay.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Barry. I think that Councillor Abbott and staff can proceed now with, since we're in the right session, and they proceed, and it doesn't have to come back to council, just go with it.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, Councillor Cunliffe, you had a motion you wanted to put on the table?
Yes, to ask staff to please set up a meeting with the mayors of, well, yourself, Whistler, Squamish, chair of the SLRD, maybe CAOs, to discuss putting a letter together to solicit the ministries involved with ensuring the safe transportation on the corridor and a maintenance and proactive planning of Highway 99. There's a lot of a lot of issues here, economic being that if the highway is impassable, then people's jobs are on the line. So I think that if we get together, look to our neighbors north for the health, the safety of all residents and visitors, then we might have some movement here, and we can ask our MLA to endorse it once we have it together.
Okay, second, Councillor McLaughlin. Okay, all in favor?
One more thing.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you invite West Vancouver? What if it gets blocked over there?
Add West Vancouver to the list, please, and thank you.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, any public questions in the gallery? Online?
Nothing online.
Okay, with that, motion to adjourn. Okay, moved by Councillor McLaughlin, second by Councillor Cunliffe, all in favor, opposed,
Yes.
motion carried. Okay, and with that, we'll move right to our committee of the whole. Need to re-log in. It's going the same. No, okay. All right, welcome to the committee of the whole. Time is 7:12. The date is March 17th. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Motion to adopt the agenda. Okay, moved by Councillor Abbott, second by Councillor McLaughlin. Any amendments, adjustments? No, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to public participation in the gallery. Yeah, online.
No.
No, okay, with that, we'll move to item number 5.1. Approval of the January 26th, 2026 minutes. Do I have a motion? So moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor.
And Metro, really.
Do we have a second? Councillor Abbott. All right, any amendments, changes?
Because that's LRD.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, I know I do have a potential amendment, I don't know. The minutes on page, what page am I on? Page 4, 8.2.1.1, Climate Action Committee meeting minutes of December 22nd. This discussion, these are not the minutes of that meeting, this is the discussion around the minutes of that meeting. Nice. Yeah,
I was just gonna comment that normally we keep the minutes a little bit more condensed.
this is where I was going, yeah.
And this is quite lengthy, and I think we kind of swung the pendulum both ways. We were very minimal, then we went long-winded, and we ended up, unfortunately, re-debating all of the minutes. So, okay, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, there is some, the way this is worded, and I'm not sure exactly where it came from and what was extracted from the committee minutes. Maybe there was, but it's a little confused. I think the two key points here are the last 2 points, which are the actual recommendations and the motions that were carried. And I think that's maybe what we need, and not the rest of it. I don't know that I need to go through the rest of it particularly. But things have come morphed a little bit, and it's
I'm fine with
not
that.
exactly the way it's.
Minimize the minutes whenever possible. Okay, down to decisions.
If I may, so is that a resolution to take out?
Just delete it down to the
all
resolutions.
Preamble and just keep the resolutions?
Okay, Councillor Abbott moved, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin, all in favor, opposed, motion carried. Okay, and the motion to approve the minutes. Okay, moved by Councillor Abbott, seconded by Councillor Fenwick, all in favor, opposed, motion carried.
Yes.
All right, business arising.
So business arising from the minutes, I have one on the same point. And I am hoping to set up a meeting with the Director of Operations. Tried to do it last week. I've been very busy. He's been very busy. Tomorrow, just to clean up things in advance of the Climate Action Committee meeting that happens next week. But I just want to talk to the way this electrification grant has been described seems to be somewhat different to the way we go from what I've heard from A, the CAO, and B, from one other. So maybe we just need to explore that to make sure council's in agreement if we're going and where this is going, so that when we meet and then I go to the Climate Action Committee meeting, I'm not telling them the wrong thing. So the original recommendation, as per those 2 recommendations we just looked at a minute ago, should really be read the second one first. So the second one says, staff be directed to prepare a request for proposal for a qualified consultant to deliver study, including an optional grant writing support. The idea was we were going to do an RFP and discuss this. There would be a nominally $5,000 fully payable fund, reimbursable fee, sorry, for lack of a better word, to do the grant. And if they got the grant, or we got the grant, thanks to their hard work, they would then get the job, which was the $70,000 grant. That was what was recommended. So that part came first, and then the second part was that staff be directed to apply to Canadian Federation of Municipalities for the grant. It was meant to happen the other way around. But what I understand is, and maybe we can, as Director of Operations, come to the table, from what I understand is we've jumped to doing the grant first. Or we're thinking of jumping to do the grant first. Is that correct?
Do you guys want to go through the chair?
Sure.
Curtis?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Eric, take a seat.
Hi, thanks. Through the mayor, the strategy right now is to ask for a grant writing consultant to help prepare the grant proposal. I took a deep dive into the grant proposal. It's quite in depth. There's 2 parts. There's a pre-application, and then if that goes in and if we're successful with the pre-application, like they think we have a business case, then there's the actual application for the grant application. Like there's 2-step process. So I've reached out to a few grant writing consultants. I've received proposals from 2. They're both within budget. I got the second one today, so I just need to look at awarding one. And then we can at least cover the first part of the grant application for the pre-application.
Okay.
Okay, comment to this?
Mhm.
Okay, so, so the committee knows that, we had a lot of discussion around this, and that's where we came up with that strategy of getting the consultant, because there is a lot of technical stuff in this, getting the consultant that was going to actually do the work to actually do the grant application. That was why we came up, and that's why committee came up with that draft RFP that was forwarded to you. My concern would be that the grant writers that we're getting are grant writers, not necessarily people that are sort of aware of or understand the technical aspects of this grant. And there's two steps, just to be clear, everyone understands. The first step is for this small grant, which is like $70,000 or whatever it was, I can't remember the exact number, to do the study. I think the follow-up phases you might be referring to, well, that's where a lot of the other GMF grants are structured. The follow-up phase is to actually do a project out of the study. Is that the two phases you're referring to?
No, through the mayor, my understanding of the GMF fund, the electrification study, fleet study, there's a two-part application to that 80% grant funded grant. There's a pre-application, which the GMF, is that right?
Yeah.
GMF, they take in our pre-application. If they think there's a business case to actually apply for the grant,
For the study.
For the study, electrification study, then we get approval to actually apply for the grant. So there's a two-step process to apply to the grant.
Okay, so I might have missed that, and you may well be correct. But typically these GMF funds, they have the two phases are, we get you a grant, the grant goes and identifies a project, then we give you $1 million to do a project. That's the way the other one that the other one that we hope to get soon, is structured, as well. So that's what I thought you meant by two phases. If what you're saying is then there's actually two phases for the first part, technically there's 3 phases, I guess, for an overall project, but that's not the way I recall understanding it. Okay. We should just go back and check that, be sure we got that right.
All right, anything else?
So we're in the committee of the whole meeting, so we're not looking for any decisions. Council has already made a decision on this. So I'll just circle back with the Director of Operations, make sure the way the committee understood it's the way he understands it, dial it in and carry on. Okay, so when do you want to make a decision on these applications you got?
The chair, tomorrow I'd be happy to, they're both within budget, they're within a few $100s, is like just picking one basically, so.
All right,
Can you,
maybe you guys can touch base tomorrow and work that out. All right,
Really.
thanks. Okay, any other unfinished business or business arising? None? Okay, we'll go to unfinished business, and that is 7.1, proposed zoning bylaw for discussion. That's RS1 zone and lot size. Mr. Blackwell, did you want to open that up? Give us some background.
Sure, thank you. So this matter was before you in January. You may recall that at that time, council granted first and second reading to the proposed zoning bylaw revisions. What am I talking about, you ask? I'm talking about, excuse me, the provisions in the RS1 zone, primarily around 2 elements. One is minimum lot size, and the second element is the inclusion of language around community levy contributions. And in that staff report, I set out sort of the problems, the structural problems with how that is set out in the zoning bylaw. And my recommendation to council is that it be amended to ensure that the language of the zoning bylaw is legally compliant. Right now, it is not legally compliant, which is problematic. And so all of that detail is set out in that January staff report. Council at the time it resolved to grant first and second reading, also requested that it appear at a committee of the whole for further discussion. I can't tell you what council wished to discuss, but it is here for council to discuss.
Can you just give us more explanation on what is legally not compliant right now, the way it stands?
Sure. So in the RS1 zone, there's a minimum lot size established at 8,000 square meters. And then further on, it says, however, I'm paraphrasing, however, that can be reduced to, I'll simplify it. There's two other numbers, but let's just say the smallest minimum lot size thereafter is 700 square meters. On the condition that community amenities are provided as a part of a development concept or the subdivision concept. The problem is that sort of requirement. First of all, we have no community amenity contribution bylaw of any type. So we are setting up standards in the bylaw that we can't deliver. The second problem is it's not legally acceptable. It's improper, legally improper. It's been struck down in a case involving, I think it was Lorvell versus the township of Langley that struck this approach down, and the court sort of reiterated, I think most of the council already know that these sorts of things can only be addressed through specific bylaws, like density bonus bylaws, amenity contribution bylaws, a little bit peripheral, but DCC bylaws. We have none of those. So, and we're not likely to have any anytime soon, not least of which because there's really so little development here, it wouldn't make any sense. So this is largely to do two things. One, to ensure that the language is legally appropriate or with regard to the provisions associated with amenity contributions. So strip that out. So there's no longer any reference to that. And the second is, maybe this might be a bit more nuanced. Given that the bylaw contemplates a 700 square meter minimum lot size, and it's basing that minimum lot size not on impact, not on geotechnical issues, not on any other issues other than how much cash you provide, which is an amenity contribution. It's not really about anything more than cash. It's not about density. So the bylaw already contemplates that as a viable density. It establishes 700 square meters as a viable density for the village in the bylaw now, so long as you cough up money. We can't ask for that, can't accommodate that, so I'm simply saying, let's keep it simple. And I acknowledge that 700 square meters and leave it there as a minimum lot size. Should that end up being the case, let me give you a bit more context. Although a minimum lot size of any size, but in this case, 700 square meters might be permissible in the zoning bylaw, it doesn't mean that it's actually achievable. There are all kinds of site considerations that can preclude the ability to achieve that. Things like topography can limit whether somebody reduces their lot size, sewage disposal, and the ability to have a septic field or backup field can limit, depending on the configuration of the property, can limit the lot size. There's quite a number of issues that can limit the lot size. So even if I had, let's say I had a 2-acre lot and the minimum lot size for the RS1 zone happened to be 700 square meters, and I looked at it and went, wow, I can get a whole bunch of lots out of my property given my size. I would look into it, let's say through an engineer, and it would turn out that because of topography, because of all of these considerations, it's not subdividable regardless of its size. So what I'm trying to convey here is, despite what the minimum lot size is, that provides no assurance that any given lot can be subdivided.
Okay, we'll go around the table. Councillor Cunliffe, do you have anything?
I think he's satisfied.
Okay, Councillor McLaughlin, any questions?
Just to give everybody an idea of what 8,000 square meters looks like. Are you familiar with Councillor Cunliffe's home?
No,
Are you familiar with Mayor Barry's home?
we've driven past it, yes.
would it be 8,000 square meters?
I don't know, 2 acres is roughly, that's right.
Okay, so we're way too big, so 700
So
meters.
probably Councillor Cullis and Mayor Barry's lots, what would you get, normally 4 lots to an acre
Or, well,
maybe-
there's none that normal, I can't tell you, it depends.
I'm
Okay.
looking at about 950-ish square meters on my
Okay,
property.
perfect, great answer, thank you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you got this monster 8,000 thing, which is my place and 2 others. Other than that, fine, now we're down to 700, which is a workable number. Then you've got the topography both ways, got it, and the CACs are just gone.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And it tidies it all up.
All right.
thank you.
Councillor Abbott, any questions?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, we'll give
Okay,
you 5 minutes.
I can do the whole meeting, so just give you a little bit of latitude. Okay. You said it was already contemplated in the bylaw at 700 square meters. In actual fact, technically it's 800 square meters in the bylaw because it says 1,600 square meters can be divided in half. You could have a 700 and 900 and minimum 900 section. You need to have an average 800. So just be a little pedantic. It's not written in the bylaw the way you've changed it. It's here to simplify it. It now allows you to subdivide into 1,400 square meter lot where previously you had to have 1,600. And I did a little bit of not a thorough study, but I did a little bit of a check, just going on what's that website where you can get your property values and sizes. I forgot the name of the website.
BC assessment.
BC assessments, thank you. And it actually changes the number of properties quite significantly because there's a lot of lots around that size. So it does affect a significantly more number of people than it would have. So technically, I think it does increase density because a lot of lots are right at that limit. So that's one point. It is a
Do you want me to answer
change.
these? If you get too many in a row, I won't be able to answer them.
Yeah, well, it says it's changed. So why didn't we just leave it the way it was? Which was, 700 is the smallest. Then if you have a 700, you need a 900, total has to be 16, 800 on average. I mean, why the need to change that?
Mr. Blackwell?
The reason is because 700 is listed as an option, so 700. So when this was created, whoever was creating it determined that regardless of the configuration, 700 was an acceptable minimal lot size, regardless of all the other mechanics. 700 was suitable. If it wasn't suitable, then that wouldn't have been an option. So because that is defined as a suitable minimum, I'm suggesting go with it. That's just my suggestion.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just to that point. And I would argue that at the time, the thought was the minimum size to subdivide has to be at least 1,600 to allow for septics and so on, but you don't have to split it down the middle, but anything less than 1,600, you should not be subdivided. That was the thought process. So not quite the way you read it, that's the thought process. Yeah, carry on.
The other one was, you saying that, you came across a number that are cusp properties.
Oh, you just,
Yeah, but again, what's important to factor in, they may not be subdividable. They may not be able to establish another driveway. They may not have a viable building site because there isn't the physical area to do it, or it's not geotechnically sound, or they can't get, thank you, septic field, or it can be a whole range of issues. So,
Near a creek.
that can be an issue as well. Yeah, particularly geotechnically, that can be an issue. Not so much an RIR issue. But there's a whole bunch, so. Yeah, I looked at that, and although there are a bunch of cusp properties, my instinct would tell me that very few of them are subdividable.
okay, so for context, an area like the Ganglions, Lower Kelvin Grove, Sweetwater, all those kind of lower, below the highway, or basically all the below the highway areas. When I looked at like blocks in areas, around 40% or so of the people could subdivide now, the way it was before. If you move it the way you've got it, it's 65 to 70%. It makes no difference for upper level places around Ocean View or Sunset Drive, because a lot of them are bigger anyway. But sorry, that's not quite true, because it does, even there, it does add another 20 to 30%. So in those smaller areas where you've got all those cusp properties, as I described, them all around at 9,000. In those smaller areas, there's you could have be subdividing up to 60% of the neighborhood. So it is a significant number. Just by making that change and move it from like 40 to 60-70%.
Okay, any other questions from councillors?
And it's not a detailed study. I just picked a couple of obvious spots that I thought where they had areas that actually the area you live is not one of the ones that picked. It's not, because yours are all smaller. They all lie in at 10 to 20%. Anyway, so I just, my thought was there was some thought into 1,600, and I think this does make a difference. It's not insignificant the way you decide, the way you assess it, whether it's 14 or 16. The other thing, and two other things that I've got. One is, we'll get to talk about public engagement here, where we spoke about going out, talking to people. I thought we should have your say around this. So maybe after I've spoken about the DCCs, maybe we can just touch on what that's going to look like. But before we go to that, why would we not put the DCCs in place now before we approve this? Get everything lined up that's needed to make it done. Tie a bow around it, do it all at once. I mean, we now said previously we went down the wrong track, they passed the thing, but they didn't sort out the CACs. Now we're just going to remove the CACs, and later we're kind of doing the same thing. Why wouldn't we do them now, get them all done properly, and then change the zoning bylaw?
Mr. Blackwell?
Great question. There's a couple of answers to that. The easiest answer is the DCC bylaw won't generate any meaningful return on investment, meaning that the level of effort, the development of a DCC bylaw is a lot of work. It has to be approved by the province. It's one of the only bylaws that has to be approved by the province. It's very complicated. There's a mathematical sort of component to it. I don't know, Eric, if you've had any involvement in the creation of a DCC bylaw. Okay, yeah, it's really complicated. So they work really well. So these development cost charge bylaw is what this refers to. This is a DCC bylaw, development cost charge bylaws, for anyone that cares to know these boring details. It's a statutory tool set out in the Local Government Act, and it's meant to facilitate to cause the developer to pay and for the impacts on infrastructure. So the legislation limited and limits what is DCC eligible. So you can't just spend the money on anything you want. So it prescribes what DCC bylaws can refer to. And it includes things like road infrastructure, sewer, water, parks. Now the legislation has changed. I read the changes and I can't remember, it adds a few other items. And I can't remember what they are, but nonetheless, the Local Government Act specifies what is DCC eligible.
Is this a decision holding us up on any development proposals?
DCC?
No, the actual approval of this.
Yes.
Okay, so on a practical basis, council's gonna have to make a decision on this?
It would be wise to, that we have a development application in that, right now for, it's a small subdivision to creating a few lots, but it would create better use of this scarce land resource by reducing, potentially anyway, I mean, they'd have to be able to prove that they can avail themselves of a smaller number. They may not be able to, but if they are, it would be more beneficial for a number of reasons, not including not only tax revenue, but there would be lots of benefits to it. But back to the DCC bylaw. The Local Government Act specifies only those things that can apply. So in a community like West Vancouver, where you have a fair amount of subdivision, and you're collecting DCCs, so DC development cost charges for a single family residence, or single family lot, I should say, changes depending on what the any given municipality sets as its standard. But it's quite common to be around $25,000-$30,000 per door for single family residential. Single family residential tracks higher DCCs than multifamily. If you have 60, 100, or even more, and think of multifamily residential, so the condo development out in Richmond, so you have, 1,000 units going in. Times $25,000 a door, that's a lot of money that the municipality can avail itself of to make these improvements to road infrastructure or sewer treatment facilities to increase the capacity, et cetera. We don't have enough, so even if you had 10 a year, you can't really do very much. It's better to poke in the eye, but you can't do very much with it. Is there value in doing a DCC bylaw? Here's what I would suggest. Council's going to be contemplating the potential award of an OC, consult to do an OCP and zoning bylaw update. The whole DCC question, I think, is a valuable discussion component should that occur. Council or somebody, I will make sure that the conversation includes that consideration. Is there value in establishing a DCC bylaw? What has the community said about does it want to see density? And if the answer is yes, we want to see density over here, and that's it. We want to put 200 houses here or apartment units or whatever it is. Then I would say, okay, my suggestion is then we start now on creating a DCC bylaw so that you capture the value of any sort of density. But if you're only looking at 2 lots here, 1 lot over there, you'll never generate enough money. Because here's the other thing, the last thing I'll say is, you can't stockpile the money you get legally. Municipalities can't stockpile the money that they receive through DCC payments in perpetuity. There's a legal obligation to spend those resources on a specific project that's specified in the DCC bylaw associated with the impact that the development is having on the infrastructure. So you can't use it elsewhere. You can't park it in the bank account forever. It has to be sort of within a reasonable period of time and specific to deal with the impact associated with it.
All right. Any other questions, Councillor Armand?
Yeah, so that's before I ask my other question, I just want to touch on, when I was talking earlier about those cuss properties, as I was talking, I was realizing what I was saying wasn't making that much sense. It's the other way around. I went and looked at my notes. It's places like Upper Bayview, Ocean, Mountain Drive, these places, they moved from like 50% of properties of size to be subdivisible to 70 to 80%. So it's those areas that you, 80% of the houses. And I know there's going to be other things, reasons why they can't. 78 on size alone, 80% of the houses there could be subdivided and away from 50. My last question, and before we talk a little bit about the public engagement part, is hazard areas, hazard assessments. Here's another thing that we've all really concerned about, spent a lot of time talking about, but haven't finalized. We haven't finalized what is the risk tolerance we're going to do for a subdivision versus the risk tolerance for redeveloping a single family house versus the risk tolerance for higher densities. We haven't done those, and we haven't tied them back into the hazard areas. It's kind of loose end, although, as I know, we do follow the condition report, we do use it, people do work to it, so that the risks are identified, but we haven't finished the process of deciding what that mechanism and trigger is and our risk tolerance. And I think, given where we are now with the non-stop climate sort of changes we're seeing, today again, continues rain for a week. I think we need to deal with those things before we go changing in these lot sizes. That's
All right, we're gonna make one final comment.
So that's a great question. So what we do right now with the application we have, part of the PLR or preliminary layout review. The applicant is required to get geotechnical sign off that there's a viable building envelope. So they are solely on the hook for signing and sealing that assurance, which is what we would want to do anyway, regardless of any report. Even if it's a question of DP area, development permit area designation, we would say, if you want to do X, Y, or Z, you have to retain a qualified geotechnical engineer, blah, 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 and they must sign off on X, Y, Z.
All right.
But we haven't
Starting-
told us.
Sorry, guys, we're starting to repeat. I'm gonna put forward the motion. The recommendation is that council will give first, second reading to the zoning development bylaw
Who's doing the
520.
We're in a committee of the whole, Mayor.
Yeah, we're gonna put it forward as a recommendation, much like climate action did.
Thank you.
That way, when we get to the council meetings,
Sorry if I could,
Yeah.
it's already been granted first and second. And so prior to going to public hearing, council requested that it come to committee of the whole for discussion. So
so what do you need from us?
a resolution to proceed to public hearing, I guess.
Okay, resolution to proceed to public hearing, moved by Councilor McLaughlin, seconded by Councilor Cunliffe. All in favor?
So, go talk to them.
Go ahead. And the motion is that staff directs schedule and facilitate the public hearing in accordance with the local government act.
Can we talk to public engagement in front of the public hearing? So we do, well, I think we secondary suite one, I don't think that we did as well as we could there. We talk to how we are going out, engaging the public to what's going to happen in front of the public hearing. Or is the plan just to call for a public hearing?
Blackwell.
So the standard in zoning is public hearings. Nobody does anything else that I've ever heard of. And it doesn't mean a municipality cannot. The reason why municipalities typically only rely on the public hearing is that these are regulatory technical documents, and it's very hard for an average person that is not fluent in these details to do more than just simply pass an opinion, and the opinion may be not even relevant to the issue. So it's my concern with these sort of notions of having your say or these other things, whatever you want to call it, is that it's not necessarily true. You can't necessarily have their say because it's the say may not be germane to the technical aspects of the bylaw, and it can just complicate things. It can create problematic expectations, etc. So this is why they rely on the public hearing and invite the community to speak to the facts. And then council listens to what the community has to say and makes a decision on that basis.
Okay,
So
all right, we've been at it 16 minutes, time to move forward. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next item is the Memorial Park, 7.2, Mr. Blackwell.
So this is only here because of an earlier council resolution to, how would I put it, sort of move forward with this initiative to establish a garden, we'll call it a memorial garden. So in further analysis of what would be involved in doing that in this location, there were a number of considerations that council needs to contemplate. There's quite a few of them, as has been set out in earlier documentation. I don't have it in front of me, I could flip over, but they include things like thanks. It includes things like you numbered it for me, great. In no particular order, it includes things like a structured process, which means inviting the community, to this whole have your say notion, inviting the broader community. Should the broader community be invited to contribute their thoughts and ideas to a park? Normally, aside from this type of park, normally that's standard practice. If there's ever park design, you always invite the community to weigh in on that, much like the beach park. This may be different, I don't know, but it's something that council should consider and consciously say yes or no. Or if yes, then here's how, etc. So there's an issue with the land use designation in the OCP and the zoning bylaw. Council will have to be minded or of the opinion that you want to amend the OCP and the zoning bylaw to establish this as a park space. And these are not any recommendations. These are just simply, these are what you need to think about and direct staff to do. There is a SPIA issue here, and we are subject to the repair and area regs, and so we would have to submit an application, which we can do, but we need council to know that and direct accordingly. The site should also be assessed for public safety. It's probably fine, but as you can recall, that was the corridor for a rather tragic event, and that's part of it. So I think part of municipal due diligence would be to assess it to make sure it's safe. So the work that's been done now, we have to make sure that it's insurable by MIABC, so the design provisions in there have to sort of meet municipal standards. There's a question of access and parking that council is going to have to contend with. How aggressive do you want to be with enforcement? Whatever. It's just something that council needs to think about. There's ongoing operations and maintenance implications. Currently, there are probably volunteers that would be willing to expend effort on maintaining it. What starts to occur is conflict with the union contract and taking away union work, number one. Number two, volunteers sort of come and go in a community. So over the long term, council has to consider, even setting aside the union component, that what may fall onto the municipality as additional cost. I don't think it's huge, but it's something you have to contemplate for park maintenance going forward. When there's volunteer work in there, there's a MIABC obligation to ensure that there's staff dedicated to observing for reasons of reliability. They have to have a staff person there. And I think that was it. So those are some of the key issues that council needs to think about and then provide direction to staff on with regard to the west. So what do you want to do?
Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Berry. This is an initiative that I put forward that I believe is to those who have participated and already provided plans, who are seeking grants, and we're actually doing the work, or we're doing the work on property. It's a project that I believe will be dear to the villagers. I acknowledge the points you make. It's non-union employment on union property. Perhaps, the issues with the water. But I believe that your list, while good and all legitimate, for what I would deem as a very simple project, very small in the scheme of the village. If I was to compare it to the Mary Miles Natural Garden or Indigenous Garden, I don't think we went through any of this kind of work to get that garden done. And you may say, well, shoulda, coulda, but we didn't. So I don't see it as a dissimilar thing. I think I would be, if I was an average resident who said the council was going to push staff to exert tremendous effort to make this happen in a park or a memorial garden way, folks would be horror struck, and the answer is you shouldn't do it. I'm not prepared to walk away. What I suggest to my colleagues is that staff has made the recommendation. If I go away with staff and come back with a skinny down what could do, couldn't do, and bring it back to council on a modified piece, and which to prove out whether this is a yay or nay, it should have a heavier say, do you want this garden to be part of our culture?
Okay, you want to put that motion forward?
If I have a seconder.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Abbott, all in favor?
I wasn't sure.
Motion carried.
Okay, to work with staff for due diligence.
Councillor McLaughlin is gonna work with staff. Come up with a solution.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was hoping to have a couple of comments.
Yeah,
before,
go ahead.
I'm gonna jump in that first. And it's committee of the whole anyway, so, just, Ross, we used the term park, and then we spoke about memorial garden. And as Councillor McLaughlin points out, there are lots of gardens in the village, some that have names attached to them. Some that don't, that are named by volunteers. If this wasn't a park per se, and it was just a garden maintained by volunteers like others that had a name attached to it and a plaque in it, does that make a difference?
Well, certainly in one area, and that is with regard to proximity to the stream. So the RIR regulations say you cannot disturb vegetation with, I think it's 100 meters or 30 meters maybe from the top bank. Which would be probably, I don't know, what would you spitball, the house that's there or the property line, that'd be roughly 100 feet. That doesn't mean you can't, it means now that triggers a provincial process. Is that process difficult? It's provincial. So, that's all I'll say, but it's not normally difficult. The only, if I were to sort of be the devil's advocate, say, here's the things that you need to look out for. I think, as far as I know, it's not designated as a fish bearing stream. Who knows if MOE have a different sort of classification for it. The worst case scenario is that they require a report from an RP bio, and then you're looking at somewhere between, I don't know. On the shy side, if you're super lucky, maybe you could get something for 5,000, probably closer to 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 for a report, just to give the province to say, sure, no problem. Turns out there's no issue here. So that would be sort of the biggest hurdle with regard to the SPIA issue in the RAR.
Okay, so regardless of whether it's a park or a garden or something informal, it's the RAR that creates most of the issue.
Biggest issue, yeah, you know, if you wanna make it a park, when is a park a park? Is a garden a park? I don't know, I don't know. But if you wanna make it something formal, it's just simply, just change the OCP designation and zoning designation, call it whatever the park designation is.
All right, why don't we have Councillor McLaughlin work with staff and come up with a solution?
Well, that's a big thing. That's something that council's gonna have to contemplate on, you know, if we go through the process of applying to remove vegetation. Because it's not been done yet, if we apply to remove vegetation within the SPIA. Will the province require a report from an RP bio? So
Why don't you guys discuss that, because it might be as simple as some of the other gardens.
I mean, the reality is it's also the bird nesting season on Monday. Nothing's happening till the end of
Yeah.
August, so.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good, thank
Listen,
you.
mate, so if we leave vegetation in place and plant some other native
you
species.
can't do
around,
anything. You can't plant stuff.
All right, we're gonna leave it to Councillor McLaughlin and staff, and we'll move on. Okay, 7.3 alternate means of publications, Mr. Blackwell, gonna give us a review of that. I think we covered this in the last council meeting. Did we?
We did, we're adding some proposed change, I will ask Ms. Kenna.
Sure. So if council recalls, we did go through first and second reading. However, council did have some concerns about using the A-frame as one of the alternate means. So it sounded like everyone was fairly comfortable with using the village update, but looking for alternatives. And as previously discussed, there's not a lot of alternatives. So we did go over this with staff, and one of our staff members suggested the watershed. So I thought that was a fairly good suggestion. So I did reach out to Ms. Dyer to inquire how advertising works. So you'll notice that I did update the bylaw with redlined inserting local online publication, because because it may or may not always be the watershed, or they may be a rebranding for all kinds of reasons. It should remain neutral, but it does have a fairly good readership, is my understanding, and Ms. Dyer does offer community rates for advertising. So we have some framework there. So this is here for council to consider this as an alternate.
Okay, can I just say, is there a possibility to add others to that list as well? Because as we know, some of these publications are a little biased, and if we could perhaps look at some other opportunities out there as well.
If I may.
Mhm.
So one thing in our last discussion during first and second reading, that I would like council to understand is that we're not limited to various manners of advertising these specific, items that are legislatively required, like public hearing is a good example. However, we must designate 2 alternates, besides our public posting place and our website. So currently, we don't use social media, for example. That's a very common one in other municipalities. It's not something we're prepared to look at this point because that would require someone full-time managing, and we don't use our social media in that way. But that's just an example. All that to say is we can advertise these requirements on any and all, but we need to have 2 that are specified. And when they're specified, we have to use them.
And there's one other consideration. Right now, we are on the hook for using the North Shore News, which is extremely expensive. So this is, that's also a consideration. We prefer to be careful with where money's allocated. So if we can find something that has as good, if not better reach, hopefully, rather than spend the money with the North Shore News, I think it's advantageous to do so.
Councilman McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mayor Barry. To the deputy corporate officer, you said you chose not to use social media. There are 2 social media sites within the village, the 2 prominent ones. And I observed that our events committee advertises in both of them. Councillor Broughton, on behalf of the scholarship funds, advertises on behalf of them, both of them. I don't think they get any comments other than see you there. Seem pretty innocuous. The patronage is probably 400 members each site, probably some common stuff there, but it gets your message out. Plus, the things that you mentioned, and Councillor Abbott also mentioned last time out, our postal service is probably the top dog. You get 100% coverage. I'm with you, nuking the North Shore News for inconvenience, cost, and having to meet their deadline, not our deadline. So it did fine. But I don't think you should throw social media out.
Yeah. Blackwell?
So the only social media we can use legitimately is our own social media site, because we can't control the content. We can't control the reliability of any other social media website. So some social media page can be shut down at any given time. So
Deputy corporate officer, how many are on our social media site?
I am actually not that familiar. It's more handled by the administrators. However, I will note that we publish a link to the village update on the Facebook, and that's pretty much exclusively what we use that for. And so these notices are going to be published in the village update. So it's kind of halfway there.
Well, the village update's pretty strong. I mean, it's got 1,050 sign members. 80 get kicked every week because they moved to Tahiti, and you've got an opening rate of over 74%. So your message is out there.
I'd be for putting it on the neighbors page if we can. Well, and I've got a problem with selective reporting on blogs, so I wouldn't be.
Do we actually start?
So here's the thing. So here's what I'll say. Let's boil it down to this. We've done all we can to find 2 alternatives. Tag, you're it. You guys figure out a legitimate alternative. We can't, We've come up with what we feel are the best options. We can't afford to keep going around and around the mulberry bush. We need two other legitimate options. So if you don't like what we have, then I suggest council.
How often do we actually require to make these postings?
Well, it's hard to say, so the statutory postings are for things like all the election stuff.
Yeah,
Statutory notifications around rezonings, public hearings.
but it's not happening three times a week.
No,
It's not happening necessarily 3 times in a year. If we don't have by-election after by-election, it's happening every 4 years when it comes to the election.
no, it's, if I were to pick a random number, I don't know, it might be, say, a dozen times a year.
So would not a mail drop be the most reliable, simplest? We have village update and a mail drop in our PO boxes, and then we're covered.
I was gonna ask the question, what happened to my suggestion of the mail drops? Was it discussed?
I thought we were doing that.
Or not?
No,
That was the
It's
request.
gotta be number one.
My understanding through the chair that we still have to post.
Yeah.
Mail drops, so like utilities, it would be no different, that would be my understanding, so,
There's a cost.
yeah.
It's less expensive than the North Shore years.
I don't know.
Okay, why
May not.
don't you go back and check on that then? And if we can,
There's somewhere else.
yeah,
Well, I know previously we used the peak.
Who picks that up?
No,
Well, that was the former CAO.
Why don't we do the high then?
option
Let's do the
because
high.
it was the least expensive
well, I think we
option.
used to get copies in the store of the peak, didn't we?
We did used to have
We
the
don't,
peak.
so we don't
Yeah.
need anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so we didn't consider the mail drop. But could the mail drop be one of the options? Because I mean, it used to only cost like $100.
Yeah, I don't think it costs $100 anymore.
Okay, so you don't have to put a stamp in. This is where you pay them to insert it into the post box.
Right.
Then it goes to every post box.
And I would have to determine whether or not that meets statutory requirements, mail out versus posting. I don't know. Can't answer that question.
Okay, I guess maybe if you could come back with that answer and we could brainstorm
Please brainstorm,
and
because,
send suggestions.
we need to move these decisions along, and if I could be critical of council with regard to these, you guys have a hard time making
Sorry.
simple
We
decisions.
gave you four,
Okay.
we gave you 4 answers here. You cited them all.
why don't you take that away, come back to us, and,
Sure.
So,
and if you got any other ideas, you can send us a little note by email, give us a heads up on some of these things, if you've got some ideas, and then we can come with some.
This is all we have, so we won't be bringing anything else, because
so you've got your 2 options, and can we use a mail drop? If not, you come back with the 2 options. If you can, we've got 3.
well, we can also put the mail drop in there as well as a third option.
Well, then you got 3 options.
And if we can't use the one, well, so yeah, at least it's covered off.
I'll move forward that we recommend to consider all 3 options. And I could discuss this again.
Great.
It's my recommendation.
Okay, I'll put a motion forward that I'm not in favor of the blog option. Because that's selective reporting. And, I've had lots of feedback on that, and, so I would not be in favor of that. So I'm not sure where that came from, but, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a blog.
Talking about the
Watershed
watershed.
is a blog.
I'm talking about the selective reporting, that one of the publications that you mentioned does, and would not be in favor of, using that as a venue for the village. I'm surprised it was brought forward,
It's
but
up to council.
if council wants to vote on it, but I'll be.
I'm good with using the watershed. I think it's not a blog, it's an online newsletter.
Well, it's selective
Newspaper.
reporting, and they cite other publications which are not accurate, so. No, I wouldn't be in favor.
Just if I could, so to be clear, what's being proposed here, it's not a name, it's a type. What do you recall it?
Local online publication.
Local online, so it could be whatever is local. Right now it happens to be this, but it could be any other thing that may pop up in the future. So it provides, it doesn't hamper our ability to pivot if we need to pivot, because it's not speaking to this online publication, it's speaking to just online publication, period, local online publication, whatever that may be.
What about the West Vancouver magazine,
Magazine,
westvancouver.com? It's a publication based out of West Vancouver. They have a North Vancouver version, but it does get dropped in our PO boxes.
a magazine probably is not circulated frequently enough.
I think it's monthly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need it more weekly,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, like,
Okay.
we're gonna come back to this, cause we're not gonna,
All right,
I
we'll
would
move
like to staff to
to
proceed
parking
then.
plan.
But we need some direction on this.
I think we need to confirm whether the mail drop is like a legitimate decision that we can go
Why
ahead.
don't we just add mail drop to the options?
Well, are we making a decision on this evening? I thought this.
You're making, yeah, you're making a recommendation to council. So that we know what to bring forward to council rather than bring
Okay.
something that.
Are you putting that forward?
Sure, I'll put that forward.
Second,
Add the mail drop.
I'm good.
Okay, I'm good with mail drop.
Well, to be clear, what I'm hearing is the online publication, local online publication,
VU,
the VU and the mail drop, is that correct? Those three options as alternatives.
which was the number you were looking for?
Well, as a fail-safe, yeah.
Okay, next item is parking plan, and
Could we all need to agree on that?
It would be good
it's a
to,
recommendation.
yeah, so you,
All in favor, through the mayor?
sure. I'm good.
And which is the online publication that you're referring to?
so currently it's the watershed.
Okay, I would not be in favor. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item 7.4, parking plan, Mr. Blackwell.
Thanks. Eric, did you want to come up with the table on this one? So, apologies to council for bringing this forward again. We've tried to decode at the staff level what the expectations are of council on this so that we can sort of string the pearls on the necklace, or in other words, sort of scope this assignment properly, and we can't figure it out, so we need more direction from council as to exactly what council is looking for with regard to this updated report. Here's sort of where we've run into the issue. We don't really know what to do, so there's three different scenarios here that loosely could be called parking plans, even though they're not. One is a plan that figures out how to manage traffic in the community as a traffic management plan. It's not a parking plan. So if that's what council is wanting, then we need to know that. If it is about saying, come back to us with a how-to or options around increasing the number of parking stalls, that would be parking plan. Whereas we can create, if we do this and we do this, we can introduce some number of additional parking stalls in these locations. That's a parking plan. If it is about, we want to charge this much here and it's from this time to this time and that sort of behavioral stuff, that's parking management. So we don't know which of those three council's seeking with regard to that resolution. Eric, did you want to add anything more on that?
So from my perspective, it's parking management. I don't think that we have the infrastructure to add more parking, to have more visitors here at any given time. Then we do need to have now a traffic management plan in place. And I don't think that that is money well spent. I think the management part of it and what I would like to see is an investigation into a permitting process where you reserve a spot and you could make it a certain percentage of spots that people can go online, just like a campsite, just like Bunsen Lake, like Joffrey Lake. You can get the whole day, you can have half a day. It's yours, it's guaranteed. And if you wanna risk it and come out here and not have a guaranteed spots, then we need bylaw giving tickets out, or we need to phone the RCMP to get people to stop blocking traffic all the way up to the highway down Lions Bay Ave, because they're sitting idling in their cars, hoping that somebody's gonna leave the CN lot. That needs to be communicated. It is not, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is, we have limited spaces to park, just like Metrotown. If you go to Metrotown to go Boxing Day shopping and there's no parking, then you either come in by bus, Uber, or you come back another day. So that's, from my perspective, what I would like to see.
Any other councillors?
Well, in relation to this idea of a reservation for parking, I think there has to be, it's something worth considering. Practically, it has to be all or nothing, it can't be partial. Because then you'll just have more people
Good point.
and hunting for those last few spots. And the other problem is, with that reservation thing is, I don't know what the number it says, so we can handle 120 parking spots. So we have 120 parking spots in a certain part of the village. How do you manage who's parking in which spot?
Well, I guess this is what we would ask staff to investigate. How does,
It's
how
not,
does
it's not, that's what I'm saying is, it's not like a confined parking lot like you have at Brunson Lake, where there's all these local parkings in one block. So once the count's up, the gate closes effectively, but we don't have that circumstances. So I don't know practically how it works. I think it's something worth considering, but
Investigating.
I can in my mind come up with a.
They'd have to have
plan.
sensors of some sort, wouldn't you, to come up with a board, like X amount of spots left at sunset?
Thank you. So, what I can tell you is this is gonna be a huge time sink. It's gonna take a lot of time to do the research and report back. I'll remind you that this is not on council strategic plan. So, and I can tell you that staff are flat out with beach parks and bus bays and all these other things. We're really busy, so this is a significant amount of work. I can also tell you that even if council decided after receiving all of the data, I suspect strongly that the costs associated with implementing this sort of thing and managing this sort of thing would be significant. So, so the question of council is, in consideration of all of the issues that staff are currently working on, how much time do you want staff to spend on this right now?
So, I thought the original ask here was a whole lot simpler than it was in my ask.
Don't know.
I thought the original ask was a whole lot simpler. It's, we have a parking plan as to where residents park, where visitors park, how we monetize that and how we finance. Have a plan. Is it working? There's been some specific cases of residents that have complained about certain things, had some objections. Have we addressed all of those? Are they still outstanding? Can we do anything about those specific concerns? And is the overall plan working well? Should there be more or less resident reserve places? That's what I thought the ask was, really. And then, I mean, there's also these big ideas.
Can I make a
Yeah,
suggestion then?
Blackwell?
Thank you. Interesting idea. So what's council's view on hosting a sort of a community conversation around this? Invite the community to weigh in on some of these key questions.
We've had a few. We've had several of these workshops already.
Well, but if there is a need to fine tune anything, this is.
How would you envision that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it would just, I don't know, be some sort of open house affair where people could come and.
6th of December 2023, parking task force, 8:30 till 7:30 to 8:30 PM. We did it. What came out of that? What have we done with it? That's the question. And it's still on the board.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you off the.
Okay.
I don't think we want to invite residents to go through that session again. They're going to say, well, what did you do with the input last time we gave it to you?
Have you looked at the input or the feedback from that?
It was looked at, yes. What happened, I don't recall now. I'd have to go back. which I can do. We can-
Councilor McLaughlin, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barry. I looked at the report that you had, verbal report that I saw that you and Councilor Burton did. I don't know what the date was, but I recall you went through a whole bunch of issues. So that was background during your term. Certainly in the prior term, there was called parking plans. It really disappoints me that, the motions going forward is fairly detailed, outlining the distress and unhappiness of our residents. Unbeknownst to council, the study group also send a second and lengthy piece of information to staff to consider. And clearly the messages were, can't do the pre-planned parking. We're almost here at hiking season now. But the number one thing is to have a go forward agreement. By the way, the original resolution was that there would be public consultation. Once staff had come up with something, staff hasn't come up with anything. And again, I'm disappointed he did back to us. But the key pieces that I'd sent to you on behalf of the study committee was enforcement, loud and strong, consistent, and consuming all week through the weekend. Towing is part of the strategy. Excessive street parking by residents who, as we pointed out an example, there's 5 resident cars in the street. And additional signage. Those are not rocket science. Those are not time consuming. They are not all consuming.
So if I could, so right now, so I'll give you, here's for context. So the last community I worked in was a seaside community of 5,000 people. They had a part-time bylaw officer that might have spent 2-3 hours a week doing bylaw enforcement. We have three bylaw officers here that work flat out on exactly what you're talking about. So I'm sorry you're disappointed with this. I can't conceive of how we can spend more time and resources on doing what we're already doing. We're never going to find perfect. I don't know what perfect would look like, but we have 2 seasonal people and 1 full-time soon to join us. And that's what they do. That's what their summers.
Not to hang your hat on that one. I agree with you that, there's 7 days a week, you've got 2 part-time and a full-time individual. I'm sure the time is covered. I think it's in, sunny weekends in November where it's swarming and there's nobody here. Or January, which occurred after the rainfalls and stuff like that. So I think that kind of more holistic approach is really what our community is looking for, because they're pretty pissed when there's a car parked in front of their driveway and they can't get out.
Good.
Okay, I'll just found the task force recommendations, and this was from March 14th, 2024. The first item was establish a parking committee, and council, we weren't able to.
I thought you did a study group though, Mayor.
We had a task force, and the task force came up with 7 recommendations. The first recommendation, establish a parking committee. Second, move parking visitors to the gravel pit. We had some residents that were working on that. We met with some provincial administrators as well. Control parking hours at Kelvin Grove, improve bylaw enforcement, update and consolidate the various reports, staff and committee. Registration system for parking, as Councillor Cunliffe mentioned, and a cost benefit analysis of current parking program. So the number 1 item was establish a parking committee. That may be one of the actions that we could take as a council.
I think the study group has shot their bolt on this one.
Well, this was a task force, so.
Well,
and the idea was to put forward recommendations. There's 7 recommendations here, and actually Councillor Cunliffe has talked about one of those, and I think others have as well. So if we're really committed to this, why doesn't someone put their hand up for this? Yeah, Councillor Cunliffe.
I have your suggestion about the so many spaces and how many are filled. If we had signage on the highway, on the Kelvin Grove exit, on the Lions Bay Avenue exit, out of how many spots are left, and there's 14 out of 120, then people are going to choose to carry on as opposed, it'll be habitual. Because this last summer particularly was out of control. Like parked on the train tracks. sandwiched between two cars. Like unbelievable and idling because it's hot out and we're waiting for someone that we're hoping is going to leave. And it just media blitz, like announce to the public what it is that we are doing. So these are things that if you put together the information collectively that you've been given from the parking task from Councillor McLaughlin's group, then let's bring it to the public for some sort of consultation. Because last year we were on the point of vigilantism with certain residents, and we have been in the past, and we can't go down that road.
Yeah, Camille, I think we have our.
So let me address your comments first, and then I'll try to address yours. So with regard to people being upset in November and January and dates you said, we only have one bylaw officer in full time, and that's 5 days a week. If council, we can't predict the weather. So if, you know, they set their schedule, they have a life to lead, they set their schedule. If it ends up looking later in the week like it's gonna be sunny, it is what it is. So council, if you can always hire another and have a part-time and full-time
So
bylaw officer.
I'm gonna just talk to it.
Yeah, Councillor Abbott?
When we hired the full-time bylaw officer, council was very clear that the guy needed somebody who agreed to work a kind of rotating shift. So there was some coverage on the weekend and it wasn't just Monday to Friday. That was the understanding.
That's correct, that's what's done.
Okay, so then we should have some coverage through the odd sunny Saturday. and
When
Sunday.
we can predict it.
But you just said 5 days a week, Monday to Friday.
No, I said 5 days a week.
Okay.
So-
Okay,
So, they do their best to sort of figure out when the sunny periods are gonna be and adjust their schedule accordingly. But, you know, if it gets, let's say it's Monday to Friday, and it gets to Thursday. It's gonna be sunny, rain for 2 weeks, it gets to Thursday, and all of a sudden, turns out Sunday's gonna be sunny. They may not be able to change their plans to do that. I mean, we can't make this perfect.
as long. Okay, so I remember we used to have, I've walked down, walking in the street and seen people park in front of someone, say, hey, you can't park there, another guy said, don't worry about it, it doesn't work Thursdays. Next they literally tell me that, don't worry about it, it doesn't work Thursdays, they talk to each other and they just park there. Gets out really fast if you're working Monday to Friday. So it has to be random, and then that's the way it works, whether it's a sunny day or a rainy day, as long as it's raining.
Yeah, we try to keep it sort of mixed as much as possible. I can't remember, I was gonna say, no comments there. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So beware, when the beach park opens up, it's gonna be extraordinarily fantastic in my view. And it's gonna be a postcard opportunity. So if you think the crowds so far are big, you wait.
It already has been a postcard because the postcard is taken with the water behind you.
Yeah.
So that fundamentally isn't gonna change.
No, it's gonna be so dressed up now.
But there's only so many parking
Oh, I
stalls,
know.
and that's it. There isn't any more.
What I'm saying is it's gonna be worse.
Which is why then people maybe we need to look at increasing the fines, and I am on board with towing. I don't wanna hear about, well, we can't tow somebody. Well, yes, we can, because if you went and parked anywhere else and you would get towed. So I don't care that we're remote and rural. If you run the risk of parking somewhere you shouldn't, where it says maybe ticketed and towed, and you get towed, well, too bad. You'll learn that lesson once.
Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you very much, Marbury. Colleagues and staff, what I suggest is staff has heard that you've given it to us, and we, quite frankly, I think we've just given it right back to you. I just listed 6 things that can be done within the 2 study group pieces or other things. Why don't you review what you can do, and for the next council meeting, you come forward with what you recommend, such as let's call it parking management. You don't have to be fancy, but I think our folks are looking for something in the here and now. They want to come and talk to us in a public format, not in an open house, but a Zoom. I'm sure you'll have 20 people easily, and we could allocate the time, but I would suggest you work on enforcement, signage, And if you need an additional budget, you come forward with additional budget.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. Yeah, we can bring stuff back, but when you say come back with changes to enforcement, I don't know what those would look like. We're already doing all that. We already have signage. So we need to know where is the signage not sufficient? We need
I've
to-
given you examples.
Since we're just spitballing, I think Councilor Cunliffe mentioned about the signage with the numbering on. I don't know what the costs are, if those are possible or not, like a small discrete sign. But for Calvin Grove's got a parking lot, Sunset's got
Just a
spaces up
revolving
there.
thing or something like that.
You know, the pick an area, Brunswick probably has the area along the roadway, which a lot of cars, would be a half a dozen different places that perhaps some of those signs might help, like Councilor
People
Cunliffe
may very
said, so
well
they're not circling on the
Yeah.
train tracks or whatever.
So,
Or even,
And again, I don't know what the costs are, maybe it's prohibitive, but
so they have done more low-tech things in the past, and certainly up on Mountain Sunset, there's a sign they put up, the mountain intersection that just says, no parking beyond this point, and then as it gets fuller, they move it down to eventually gets to the school. And then, but still the people coming off the highway, they have to drive that far to get it. I don't think I've ever seen it any further down. But could it be at the off-ramp, if the parkings are all full, it says no parking? And I've never seen something like that done down at the beach. Maybe they do. So-
Councillor Abbott, you're right. I mean,
If people, yeah, on an off-ramp, turning around at that point and not driving down into this.
Yeah, 'cause you can't turn around or.
LV Beach Park, no parking available.
Just say no beach while parking full, trespassers will be towed, whatever it is.
And the officers can move signs around too. I think as Mayor Burry was
Yeah.
saying, I mean, you don't have to be in one spot all the time. It's just like our little smiley and sad faces with the speeding, move them around.
Well, or we're gonna be looking at a horseshoe base situation where residents will be standing there with barriers and signs and not allowing you by without proof of residency. And that has gone on now for at least the last.
or it'll be a
summers.
P&E
And
where you're charging.
nobody with a
No,
sign saying
no.
park here for $10.
Except in the already.
Mayor, I suggest we hand this back to the,
Okay,
for the next council meeting.
Are you clear on?
Yeah, I think Chair, I'm hearing more of a demand management kind of strategy is what's council's looking for. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
That might be a good way to describe it.
Are we coming across rather than?
and it could be low tech or high tech.
It's not council being demanding, it's the traffic.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I think that's it, other than public participation in the gallery.
One suggestion, I don't know if that's not allowed, but how about putting a small bulletin board in the, where you pick up your mail? So most people go there. And then you could have, like little brochures on a shelf or something like that.
For the posting,
For what?
the alternate means of publication.
Yeah.
Sorry, if I may.
Yeah.
That is already our, public posting place, so in the post office room.
Up top.
That figure that says council notices, that is our regular public posting place, so
Okay.
we have to find one outside of that. So that in our website are,
It needs a
Standard.
frame that's
And-
lit up, because it took me 5 years to recognize that that's actually what that was. I've never. looked
that, and, sorry, Councilor Dunham, and outside of the office, those are physical posting places. And then
Yeah,
we have the website, so now we have to find two more.
Anyone online?
No.
No, okay, motion to adjourn,
So
moved by Councilor McLaughlin, second by Councilor Cunliffe, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
That didn't